Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Lumière Learning Monday. My guest today is Rekha Koita. Rekha, thank you very much for coming on the Lumière platform and you're going to talk to us as the director and co-founder of the Koita Foundation, the non-profit that works on digital health. But I'm very keen for you to establish to our viewers a little bit about you and your journey and how you came to be. So you grew up in Mumbai, you studied in Mumbai, very, very prestigious schools.
Thank you, Deepa.
So tell us a little bit about you and your journey, Rekha.
Yeah, I think if I kind of rewind a little bit, yes, I grew up in Mumbai. I grew up at in the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research campus because my father was a scientist there, and it was of course a very academic environment, as you can well imagine. And so from there, I kind of went on to pursuing my engineering at IIT Bombay, where I studied metallurgy and material science. And after graduating from there, I went on to do my master's in material science from Carnegie Mellon University. And I completed my master's and I was very keen to come back to India. So when I came back to India, what I realized while I was very fond of my area of study, it was hard to get jobs in that field. When I came back at that time in 1995. So as I kind of explored options here, I came upon management consulting, which I had never been exposed to. But I kind of just decided that I might as well just try something new and see where it takes me. So I kind of just took the plunge in a sense, and I joined Accenture, which was at that time much smaller firm called Arthur Anderson. It was around 120 people or so, and I joined the management consulting part, the arm of it, and I worked there for more than 8 years, where I did a lot of work on, with a lot of it in the manufacturing sector and other FMCG and other, even shipping and various other streams in industry, where I worked on both, large scale systems implementation, business process re-engineering, and some work around HR and governance. So I did that, and then I kind of, after around 8 9 years or so, I took a break from that, and because at that time I think it was just at a personal crossroad where I found that consulting career was hard to for me to kind of manage in a sense. And then after a couple of years, after around 3 years or so, where I did take a break, after that you know I did explore the social sector a little bit, but I wasn't fully sure what I wanted to do there. And then I went on to doing management consulting training. So, training for people in what we call consulting skills. And I did that for 10 years with Mind Matters with an old, friend and colleague of mine from Accenture. And then I think at around, again, 2016 or so, there was another kind of, I started thinking of now, what more can I do? And, should I explore some other options? And again, the whole social sector thing came back to me. And that's when I started, Koita Foundation after, which is that is a journey in itself. But we basically today we are, our foundation is around 7 years old. And we have two streams of work. We work on digital health, which is, basically working with the government and government aided institutions to accelerate the creation of a digital health ecosystem in India. And that vertical is actually led by Rizwan, my husband, and who joined the foundation in 2021, where he, after stepping down from his role as founder CEO, and I kind of lead the digital transformation of NGOs vertical, where we work with NGOs in the fields of livelihood, education, and healthcare, and to use technology in a strategic manner to transform them in terms of their program efficiencies, their outcomes, as well as helping them to scale.
Amazing. Rekha, you were featured in this book, Who Said She Can't?
Yeah.
And there were a series of questions that Rashmi Bansal puts forth where she asks each of the women from IIT Bombay about their journey, and what were those crossroads, what were the times where uh, things went a little uphill, and maybe you want to talk about some of these uh, challenges that you faced. You have had a stellar academic background, obviously worked super hard to achieve what you did academically, professionally. And then you talked about a 3 year a break. You just want to talk a little bit about what happened in that break. What did you focus on, and what enabled your coming back?
Sure. So I think the reason I so at that time I took a break. I never thought I would take a break, honestly. So as I said, I think the first challenge was probably on coming back to India to find a, a job which you like and which where you can fit in. Because remember, this is not the India as it is today, right? Which has many more opportunities. I came back in 1995, where the opportunities were far limited compared to what they are today. So finding a fit itself, in a sense, was a challenge, and I really feel I was very lucky to have got this opportunity at Anderson,
Anderson.
and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed my work.
How
There were
long
very
did you take to find land this position at Arthur Anderson? How much time
you know
went?
it didn't take. Actually, I don't remember, but it was a couple of months. It was not too long, and I mean, see, once I kind of decided to apply there, it was very easy. I just literally walked into their office with my CV and they interviewed me and they gave me the offer on the spot. So it was easy. It was just that to decide to do something different takes a little time, right? Because you
Yeah.
first want to try to do whatever you're familiar with. And I felt that I have worked so hard and I've done so well and I've spent 6 years studying this. So I must do this. So I had that mindset when I came in.
So, what
Um,
helped you open your mind to a possibility that was so much more removed from your core study area?
Honestly, Deepa, I felt that this was the only way I could stay in India. So I was very clear that I wanted to stay in India. So in a sense, I chose my geography first and then the field of work. So now because
Also,
I
very
want,
interesting because at that point, people were staying back in the US. So, maybe you want to tell me a little bit about what made you all come back to India?
so there are two things. Okay, one is for me, it was more of personal family reasons where I felt my parents were growing older and I felt I wanted to be here with them. And to me, like living so far away from family was not something that I was comfortable with. It's not just about their comfort, it was also my comfort, I would say. I don't think I was ready to stay so far away from family. And I think the other thing is that I really enjoyed my time in the US, but it never felt like, it was not my own place. I didn't feel comfortable enough. Well, I enjoyed the experience. I had a great time. Maybe I could have stayed a little longer, but it was not a place that I felt I wanted to make, kind of my home and I wanted to stay there for the longer term. I wanted to come back to India. I just had that pull was there in me. So I think that was what it was. So and yes, I do know that at those days very few people came back. It was much tougher. Salaries were much lower. Now we get paid people get paid much better. But I somehow felt it would all work out, and I just said I have to try it out. I mean. And I did tell myself in the worst case, if really nothing works out, one can think of maybe going back. But it was not really an option that I wanted to consider. So because of that, I felt that I just had to make it work over here somehow or the other. And when the jobs or the engineering or the more technical field jobs didn't sound as appealing to me, then I thought that what, I have nothing to lose because I was like 25 years old. I was not married or I didn't have children, and I didn't have any other responsibilities. So what was the harm, in trying out something new, right? And if not, then when? So I thought, let me try it
Fantastic.
out. Worst case, क्या होगा? नहीं पसंद आएगा ना, ठीक है, I'll find something else. So it was
Wonderful.
just that, yeah.
So, this openness of mind, when you traveled, it must have been quite rigorous at that time, the early days of lot of travel as consulting.
Not that much. I had a lot of projects in Bombay and there was some bit of traveling. So that part of it was okay. I think what happened for me is that, around 8, 9 years into it, I think I was married and I had young. So I had both young children and I had aging parents and in-laws. And it was a little, and the consulting job it is a demanding job where, you need to give it your best. You need to give it enough time, and once you're there, then you want to kind of be there also fully, right? So for me, I'm the type of person, whatever I do, I want to do it kind of wholeheartedly. So even my work, I didn't want to, I mean, I tried working part-time for a bit, but it was hard to do, like, and even part-time was not really part-time, and then you get very limited in the number of projects, etc. And I realized this was not a very viable option for me.
Hmm.
And I think with with small children and aging parents and a spouse who he my husband, Rizwan, as you know, Deepa, he is an entrepreneur, so he had started a business, and his clients were all US based, so he had to travel a lot, and he had a certain dream and ambition which I definitely wanted him to fulfill also. So I just then I felt that the whole thing, it was just not, the balance was not working out, and I wasn't very happy with the way I was managing my time, and I felt I was compromising too much on my personal front. That was my feeling. So I kind of just at some point just thought that when before my second son was born, I just felt that I wanted to take a break from all of this and then figure out what I want to do.
So you were at home for about 3 years at that time.
Around 3 years, yes, around
And
three
then
years.
that's when you started the training.
So after that, yeah, then after that, actually, I worked with Give India for a bit. I got involved with them. So I did that for some time. And then I again, felt that maybe that was not the right fit for me in terms of social sector. Maybe there was something else, but I wasn't coming up with any opportunity at that point. So then again, I started re-exploring what I could do. And, my colleague Sriram happened to, he must have found out that I'm looking out for something. So then he got in touch with me with this training opportunity, and I kind of I took it up and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I did it for 10 years and it was a lot of fun. I had, it gave me flexibility. It also gave me fulfillment. So it was good. Um, you know, I used to
So at
travel. In fact, at that time I traveled for work, in fact, more, but it was fine. It was quite manageable. Yeah.
and with the children, what kind of support did you get and did you have?
See, earlier, initially, I lived with my in-laws, but my mother-in-law passed away when my younger son was 6, 8 months old.
Oh,
And my father-in-law was there, but he was also very elderly. And my parents were there. My mother at that time was extremely active and very supportive. But I lived at Pedder Road and they lived at Seven Bungalows. So the distance made it very difficult, right? So, in fact, when my older son was young, my mom supported me a lot because I could keep going to her house. But the moment children start going to school, then you have to kind of manage your support system where you live, right? And I had house help and people, but I also felt the need to spend a little more time with them. So I think this training was a very good balance because few days were very busy and then few days were comparatively quite flexible, with limited hours. So it worked out well for me.
and that must have been quite difficult with your husband traveling and you also traveling when the kids were little, but you obviously persevered for those 10 years and you had the flexibility also.
Yeah, so in those days, see, I didn't travel every day, right? So the few days in the month that I was traveling, my mother would help out. And the remaining days, I used to be around enough to manage. So that was not a problem at all, actually.
Okay. So, how did the idea of working along with your husband, appeal to you? Did that even come up as a conversation at any time? To both of you are from IIT, both of you did your masters overseas. So, did was that a thought?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah, a lot of people ask me that. So yes, so Rizwan initially started a company called Transworks, which was one of the first Indian services. They sold that pretty soon, within a couple of years, 4 5 years, and then they started Citius Tech, which is a digital, health informatics company. And he ran the company for 16 years. And yeah, logically one could think that I could have joined him, but somehow that was a conscious decision we took, that we would not kind of work together. And I didn't want to be part of that organization. I felt it was better that we do separate things. It's only now in the foundation that we have decided to work together. And that too, we
Yeah,
are actually handling different spaces. So, in a sense, we're together, but we also have our independence.
very interesting. So, how did Koita Foundation come to be, and how did you sort of progress on that? You have a team, you have a CEO now, so can you tell us a little bit about that journey and what you're focused on, and how does it work now with uh, your time and the stretches?
Sure. So, when I was, as I mentioned to you, around in 2016 or so, I started again thinking through in terms of what, how I would want to kind of, I had more time by then, uh, because the children were bigger, and there were little less responsibilities. Some parents had unfortunately passed away. So, in that sense, also, I was a little bit, there was a little bit of vacuum due to that. So I was then exploring what more can I do and what else can I do. And then I thought I would again try, doing something in the sector. By then, Rizwan and I, were also ready to start on our philanthropic journey, but we wanted to do something where we utilized not just our funds, but utilize our time and our skills and experience to help, people in the sector.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So I actually started, it was a kind of a very organic kind of a thing, right? Because I just started with a very exploratory mindset to see, okay, let me meet a couple of organizations, let me understand what they do, let me see what appeals to me, and let me see where I can fit in and what can I help them with. So, as a part of this exploration, I kind of started with Antarang Foundation, I know you're familiar with. And as while I was getting to know them and talking to them and starting to do little things for them, I realized that this whole piece of technology is kind of a gap in the sector. It's a gap in the sense that many NGOs, there are some NGOs who are not that aware, and this is pre-COVID, so now more people are aware. But in those days, there were quite a few who may not have been that aware of the potential of technology. So technology was viewed as something which was just for automation, for improving your kind of efficiency, and it was like an M&E tool, right, or an MIS tool, which was used for reporting and for data entry. But the fact that technology, a digital transformation, is what we call our vertical, right? Because it actually truly has the power to transform the way you work in terms of how your processes run and work on the ground. How do your field workers, work differently? Like, for example, if you're talking and engaging with parents, you're in the education space, can the technology help you to even engage with parents? Can it help you to engage with the students directly? What else can it do for you? If you're counseling a mother on malnutrition, are there tools which can help to make sure that it is done with a high quality, in a high quality manner, consistently across all the hundreds of field workers that you may have? So it changes the way you work, and thereby changing, it ensures high quality, consistent work leading to better outcomes. It also gives you the ability to scale, because now you have simplified, streamlined, modular processes which can be scaled easily. And we kind of worked on those things at Antarang, and we saw the kind of change it was bringing about there, and the way the organization transformed. And they transformed also in their manner of thinking, working with technology, ability to take decisions based on data, right? And once, I mean, I did it with Antarang for a bit. Then I started, with look. I worked with Sneha, I worked with Magic Pass, a bunch of other organizations, and everywhere we could see that this was a similar pattern, right? That in terms of the help that the technology was providing, or the kind of transformation we were seeing, and we felt then that this was a good area to focus on, because it was one aligned with our skills, right? Because that's what I did even in Accenture. So the work I'm doing today It's actually very similar to what I did, like whatever, some 25 years back in Accenture. At in a simple manner of principles, it's very much the same. And it's just that the sector is different. So it aligned well with my skills, and because Rizwan, was running an IT company, that was very helpful because there I got access to a lot of resources in terms of technology partners, vendors, or any other advice, because I'm not a software person in that sense. So if I needed any advice in terms of some particular, uh, you know, um, architecture or some other any other issue which I might want to bounce off with somebody, I did have access to people who could guide me. So it was just a good fit, and that's how we kind of started the foundation with the digital transformation vertical in 2017. And then Rizwan, in his journey with Citius Tech, as he kind of divested his own stake, partially, and then he decided to step down as CEO. That was his plan. So when he stepped down as CEO in 2021, he also joined the foundation full time and started the digital health vertical. So that's what kind of we are now, focusing on. So we work with the NGOs. I'm also working on capacity building now, for capacity building of NGOs in the whole space of digital transformation. And our digital health work, in any case, focuses a lot on capacity building, on innovation, on research, and education. A lot of different things.
And now there is a team that is in place.
Etc. So that was his kind of reason for getting into digital health. And my reason for getting into digital transformation, as I said, is because it was familiar with me in terms of that was the work I did at Accenture. Plus, it was a gap in the social sector. And why did I choose education, healthcare, and livelihood? They were just areas that interested me. Especially, you see, for me, you're not going to be able to apply that and better your own life. Again, that is like a gap which needs to be fulfilled, right? So that's how education and livelihood, in my mind, to some extent, are also kind of related, right? Because that is the ultimate outcome for not for everybody, but in a large number of cases for the sector that we're dealing with, that is one of the outcomes. And of course, there are other ways to get livelihood. Doesn't have to only be education, but so that part of it was important, right? It basically economic empowerment.
Yeah,
And healthcare, again, I work a lot in the mother and child space, which is just personally appealing to me. So
fantastic. I want to ask you, Rekha, that how do you know, what's the message? How do you want to address the viewers? What is it that you want the viewers to take away? And how can nonprofits engage with Koita Foundation? How can individuals participate in this journey?
yeah. Okay. So I think in terms of the message for anybody, I think, see, anybody who wants to get into the sector, I would just say that firstly, there is just a lot which can be done. I think India is a large country with a lot of need in any space that you may, whether you're interested in water or climate or gender or law and order or education or whatever it may be. There is a lot of need, and so I think whatever you're interested in, you should just kind of dive into it and figure out, how you can contribute and what you can do. And I think it's just important to get started, even if it's in a very small way. I think those baby steps are very, very important, because many times I think getting into the sector I found very overwhelming, because there's so much of stuff happening, there is so much that one can do. The problems seem so large, and they are large, rather, they don't seem large, they are very large problems. And you kind of sometimes wonder that, what can I do? I'm just like one drop, kind of in the large ocean. But I think every drop counts, right? And even if you can change a few lives, right, or you can help a few people, I mean, one should never undermine that. So I think to just take that plunge, to get in headlong, and to kind of just take those little baby steps. One step leads to the other, and I think once your intent is right and you genuinely put in an effort, right, I do believe that the path kind of just paves itself. The universe shows you that path, it brings you the opportunity, and things do work out. Just too much of intellectualizing and planning doesn't always work. I mean, that's been my experience.
And how does a nonprofit find you? Do you actively look for the nonprofits, or is there other?
So that's an interesting thing again, Deepa. So in the early days, I had to look actively for nonprofit. So, Dasra really helped us a lot in those days, and then some through word of mouth. Like some one founder might introduce me to somebody else, and but now what's happened is because we've been doing this for the last 6 7 years, and we've been working with a large number of NGOs. Now what I find is that generally we are having people approach us on their own, right? So I might kind of run into them at a conference or an event, or they will just reach out to us because through somebody or via whatever. But I would say right now I'm in a state where I think I there is more demand than I have capacity to fulfill.
And so, Rekha, it was really, really good to hear your journey. Successful in so many ways. I think we didn't touch upon the personal successes, but both your children are off to university. They, I think, followed your footsteps. Your son went to IIT Bombay again, yours in Rizwan's, and your younger one is now uh, in the
He's at
UK.
Cambridge. Yeah, he's at
He's
Cambridge
an
Economics. Yeah.
You've been a caregiver to your parents, your in-laws, and I think it's very, very inspiring to hear about just the courage to do new things that you demonstrated, and the fact you talk about taking the first step. Also, the intent, having good intent, and things working out for you, and that there are so many issues to solve. If a person wants to and sets their minds to, they could have a lot of areas that open up to them by way of opportunities. So I've really enjoyed talking to you, learning from you, listening to you, and I'll be following your work at Koita Foundation. We will be, and I wish you all the best personally and professionally in all you do.
Thank you so much, Deepa. I really appreciate this opportunity, and it's always lovely to see you, meet you, speak to you. And so I enjoyed this conversation myself, and I really hope that the viewers also find that they also enjoy listening and they can take something away from it. But I think just one last thing I'll say is that. It's never, I think as women especially, we do have to juggle many balls, right? And sometimes you're kind of just figuring out what to pick up before something else drops. So, and we have to do it. I think that's just part of the many roles that we kind of take on. But I think one should enjoy the journey and make the most of every stage, as it comes, right? So that you don't have any regrets later, right? Today, I just feel very blessed that I think that when my kids were small, or when my parents or in-laws really needed me, I was able to be there fully and spend that time. And now I have so many wonderful opportunities and things that I'm working on. So it's never too late to reinvent or to restart. And as you said, right, and I mean, as we discussed, I think once the intent is there, things just work out. So
Yeah.
one should
No,
just have to keep doing.
so much hope and such sage advice over there. Thank you for this
Thank you.
wisdom and thank you for your
Sure.
positivity. I think so positive and so much promise in this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepa. Thank